Hey there. Welcome to the Oklahoma On Stage podcast. Come on in and sit a spell. We're going to talk a bit about some theater folk and the magic they're making. If you like what we're doing, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and you can find our website at oklahomaonstage.org. Got any questions for us or want to give us an idea or two? Reach out to us at oklahomaonstage@gmail.com. Hope you enjoy your time with us. This here's going to be hotter than a firecracker on the 4th of July. So sit on back, grab a drink, because this show's about to start.
Oklahoma on stage, the stories come alive. With drama, dance, and music, the arts always thrive. From center stage to backstage lore, Oklahoma on stage, there's always something more.
Welcome back to Oklahoma On Stage. As always, I'm Tim. I'm your host along this winding rainbow brick road that is Oklahoma theater. Today's guest is a woman who's worn nearly every hat in theater, but found her true calling in the chaos, creativity, and control of stage management. From performing Shakespearean tragedies to directing rapid-fire comedies, she's spent over 15 years helping to shape Oklahoma's performing arts scene. She's the acting executive director of Moonshot Productions, a board member of Oklahoma Movement, and the steady hand behind ambitious shows like Tethered and the complete works of William Shakespeare, abridged, revised. If you've ever wondered what it takes to keep a production from unraveling or why someone would choose the headset over the spotlight, this episode is for you. Today we're going to take a look at life backstage, where the magic really happens. Oklahoma On Stage family, please join me in welcoming, I forgot to ask, is it Jennifer Hertel?
Hertel, yes.
I said it right.
Yeah.
About that. We get all kinds of names and, I'll butcher every one of them. But
Yeah.
God damn it. So welcome, Jennifer, to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. I used to always tell people it's like the track instrument, just not spelled the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. So, first off, as we always do, the elephant in the room, how did the theater bug bite you?
Well, I actually started in high school. I had a drama teacher, Miss Jennifer Dinslow. She was amazing, and she caught on pretty quick about the fact that I like to talk. And she said, how would you like to do competitive speech and debate? And I started with that. And I went all across the state of Oklahoma competing in lots of different events for speech and debate. I also did the Technology Student Association. And then when I went to college is when I started doing like full shows. But it really got me back in high school with Miss Jennifer Dinslow. She really kind of helped guide the way in learning how to do a role and break apart a character and all that, which got me going.
So what was it that first drew you to the stage?
Attention. I hate to be that person, but I do love having like everybody's quiet so I can speak. It's great. And so I started doing a lot of different roles. And then when I got in college, I just was auditioning for everything that they had available and got turned down for a lot, but also got to do a lot that way because I auditioned for anything and everything that was open. And through that process, really started to kind of narrow down, this is cool, but it wasn't really for me. And this is where I really excelled and was able to kind of funnel down to what really worked for me as an actor. And then that later transitioned into, I think I want to do more backstage stuff. And then did anything and everything backstage to narrow down to stage management really seems to be where I thrive.
Cool. You talked about your high school drama teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Who were some of your other artistic influences as you were growing up?
That's a great question. So one of the people that I really have followed recently, vocally and acting wise, Lindsay Mendez, that's her name. She did a show called Dogfight that was on Broadway a few years back. And it's about the Vietnam War. And she is a waitress that gets invited to a party by a soldier on furlough because she's not conventionally attractive. And it's called a dog party where their intention is to invite like the ugliest girl. And she sings some of the most beautiful songs, and she's got such a voice on her. She did a Kerrigan and Loudermilk review where she sang the song Avalanche, and I have workshopped that song for years. And she has just been a real powerhouse. She recently was actually in the Barbie movie. And she's just kind of, her career has just shot off in recent years. And watching people like that professionally that were not the traditional role of like what you like usually see on Broadway, but is still having a super successful career, has kind of been like the push for me to keep kind of working with all that stuff. And as I got into more backstage stuff, I actually had Stephanie Stone at TCC. She was the first stage manager that I got to work under, and she had infinite patience with me because every time she would come into rehearsal, I would ask to look at her book. And she would show me her stage book, and she was incredibly organized. Everything was color-coded. Everything looked perfect. And I would just scroll through it and be like, what's this? Why did you color it that way? What does this mean? What is that? And she would like, bless her heart, she had so many things going on, but she would always take time to be like, oh, I did it that way because orange stickers mean light cues. Oh, I did 0.8 instead of going to the next number because it's all part of the same light cue, but it's just a different variation of that light cue. And having her when we worked on Company together, which is where I got to meet her, and getting to work on that and like just shadow her and like really take in everything she was doing and really get like the nitty gritty of stage management. That was the first show that I really got to work backstage and see this is what this is like. Because I remember, it's a funny story, the first rehearsal that we went to for Company, I had no clue what I was doing. I was told I was the assistant to the director, which was a position they made up for me so I could be backstage and learn. And I didn't know what that meant. And I asked the technical director at TCC, Mark Frank, I said, what do I do? And he's like, oh, you just be there to help with whatever people need. I was like, okay, like get coffee and stuff. And he was like, sure. And so the first day I showed up to auditions, I went, does anybody need coffee? And the two women that I was working with, the musical director, Laura Cowan, who is incredibly talented, and the director at the time, Lisa Stefanik, who is just insanely talented and so smart in this industry. And they were just like, no, we're good. We brought our own coffee. And then the second day I came in and I said, I can make a Starbucks run. Does anybody need coffee? And Lisa pulled me aside. She goes, I just want to let you know, like, most people bring their own coffee. Like, we'll probably need help from you, but coffee's not one of the things. And it was such a polite way to tell me, like, you can stop asking about that because we've got it pretty much covered. But that was the production that made me really realize, like, this is a whole other level than I'd ever worked on before. And being able to just kind of sit back, it took me about 3 days to realize I need to just shut up and listen and just take everything in.
Yeah.
Because, and especially getting to like learn from somebody like Lisa Stefanik, how she walked in a room and the atmosphere of the room before she walked in and the atmosphere, how it changed when she entered the room, completely different. Everybody would go from like talking about their weekend and their little groups. She'd walk in the room and they're like, actually, I could be in my script. I need to go over my lines. I should be prepared and get ready for rehearsal. And it was just this level of professionalism that she brought into the room that made me go, I want to be that. I want to be that person that I changed the attitude of the room just by walking in it. And it was such a eye-opening experience for me of like, that's the level you can achieve. Like here, it was really interesting to me and really kind of set me on the path of trying to figure out how to get there, you know? So
That's really cool. And you actually answered several of the questions that I have
good.
there in a line. So when was it, if you can pinpoint that one moment, that you realized that production and not just performance was your true calling?
I think it would be, I was asked to stage manage a one-act festival, which was 5 different shows. They had 3 shows and then an intermission and 2 shows. And it was student-led. And I was really only asked to stage manage it because everybody else was busy either acting or directing in it. And I was like the stage manager for all the shows and led the whole one-act festival. And I had no clue what I was doing, but I was just like trying to take everybody's feedback as it came and adjust to each show and be what every single director needed me to be. And at the end, I went, I don't really know how I did. I did my best. But they had an OCTF, the Oklahoma State Board, came and reviewed, and they nominated some actors. And the person that was there nominating took a second and said, I just want to say, whoever your stage manager was for this, are they here? And I was like, I raised my hand in shock. I was like, I'm here. And they were like, well done. This was very well ran. You did great. And all the directors were like clapping and like, yeah, she really nailed it. She did really good. And I went, I had no clue what I was doing. But if that's all it takes is just listening and adapting, like I could do this. And then the more I got exposed to it, I learned different methods and stuff that worked really well that made me just even better. And so it got to the point where it was like, my biggest thing I tell new stage managers is all you need to do is just listen to what your director needs and adapt. That's the basis of it. And being able to understand that first time out the gate, being able to say, I just need to listen and do what they ask. It's one of those things that maybe go, maybe this is the part that I was born to do in this industry. I wasn't meant to be an actor because I always had to try so hard to be kind of like just up there with everybody else. Some of these people that didn't have to try that were just naturally so talented. And I had to try so hard. But it was like, this is something that I just kind of did what I thought I should do. And I just seemed to be really good at it. I'm like, this is the part that I'm supposed to be at. Managing everything, calming everything down, being able to problem solve on the fly. That tends to be where I excel. And that one moment where they were like, this was really good. And I went, I had no clue what I was doing. Seemed to kind of be that moment where I was like, maybe this is it. Backstage, you know?
You know, there's something the first time I stage managed, there was something about when I was a kid, I used to, my dad hated it, but I used to take things apart to see how they worked.
Yeah.
I never really was good at putting them back together, but I wanted to see the inner workings. I wanted to see, well, how did that race car go from there to there and I never touched it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, all that kind of stuff. When the first time I stage managed, I was learning there were gears that were going that I on stage had never known about.
Yeah.
And so that is what, kind of like you said, it just triggered for me. I was like, I can help make that happen.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was always, I just want to be in a position where your vision, you get the actors to do what they need to do. I'll make sure this mirrors and complements.
Yeah. Like, just tell me what you want the end result to look like, and I can get you there.
I'll make it happen.
Yeah. And going back to when I was working on Company, I had the privilege of being able to be like, they kind of moved me into more of like an assistant stage manager role, and they had a turntable in that show. And my job became calling the turntable cues. But being on headset and listening to Stephanie, how she called the show and how calm she was when things didn't go right, I went, this is what it's about. It's that ability to say, everybody relax, I got it, this is what we're going to do, you know?
Yeah, there's definitely a calming element to a good stage manager.
Yeah.
And that's such a calming thing for the director as well.
Yeah.
And to know that person's got it.
Yeah. To just be able to say, I trust you to run this the way it's supposed to run. I don't have to worry about it anymore.
And much like you, I've leaned towards some of those stage managers that are like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked with directors that have said, you know, it's come showtime. Here's the book.
Yeah.
It's your show now. And because of that, and I see that trust factor, I want to learn from them because I want to know, I want to be that good.
Yeah.
Just like you said. So yeah, it's amazing. And I think anybody that knows anything about stage managing should have an element of that as well.
Yeah.
So you've done it all. You've been a playwright.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of that.
A director, stage manager, singing, acting. So for you, from your perspective, how do those roles differ?
Yeah. So I think every element, whether you're just stitching up costume malfunctions all the way up to calling the show, I think every single piece of theater has a really important element, because if you fail, the show doesn't go like it's supposed to. And my goal ever since probably about 2016, when I started to really understand the depths of all that is available in the realm of theater, of like things you can do. I was like, my goal is to get to where if at any point in a production something drops, I can pick it up. Whether it's, hey, we just tore a piece of the costume and the costume designer's not here to stitch it. I'll be like, I'll be right there, and I could stitch it up and get going.
Staplers work wonders.
Yeah. And I've had that happen when we were doing the Fantastics. I had the girl that stepped off the platform, she ripped the whole bottom of her skirt and it was tripping her up. I ran backstage, I ripped the bottom of the part off and hemmed the bottom real fast and like, go back out there. And it's just being able to adapt on the fly and having all these positions, whether it's acting and you have that pressure of being in front of people and being the face of what everybody sees, or you're stage managing and you're the one having to figure out problems backstage before the audience ever notices it happens. Every bit of it is just as important as the other, because if any part of it fails, the audience is going to notice. And having all of these different factors work together, I think, is what's the magic of theater, because so many things have to go right for this one moment to happen. And no moment is ever the same. Even if you see the same show 2 nights in back to back, it's not the same show, because something is going to be different. And I think that's what's always drawn me to live theater, is that every time you see it, it's a once in a lifetime moment. You're never going to see the same cast do the exact same lines the exact same way twice.
Excellent. I love it. I love it. So what's the biggest challenge that you've ever faced managing or directing, and what did you do to overcome it?
I'd actually say, just right off the top of my head, it's probably the most recent. It may not be the hardest thing I've ever had to overcome in like all the years that I've done this, but the biggest thing that stands out to me recently was when we did the complete works of William Shakespeare, abridged, revised. One of our lead actors, which there's only 3 actors in that whole show. It's a very script heavy show for just 3 people to do the whole thing. And one of our actors got super ill closing night and told me about an hour before the show. And very fortunately, I had done this show in college, and it just happened to be the one role that I had done. And so I was like, I guess we could make it work. And so we literally, the hour before audience started coming into the space, we were figuring out what costumes would fit on me, figuring out how, like, what parts I could do on book versus off book. And I had to step in as that role for the closing night. And it was quite a mess. I think the show ran okay. And that's why I had people come up to me after the show. It felt like a mess to me because I knew the actor that I was replacing was just so talented, and he was so great in that role that I just never felt like I could live up to what he was doing beforehand. But I had people come up and be like, as far as having somebody step in, that was great. Like, I forgot you had your script in your hand a lot of times. But the biggest part that stood out to me is like almost got scary was the sword fights for some of the scenes. I had rehearsed the hour before the show. We were rehearsing some of the sword pieces, and I had rehearsed 2-handed, and then in the actual show had the script in my hand. So it was like having to adapt on the fly to now I'm having to do this 1-handed versus 2-handed like I'd rehearsed. Was a bit messy. But luckily I had had sword training in the past that I was like, I can kind of, figure out how to go on about this. And I had the 2 other actors that were in the show, Hunter Potter and Jackie Finn, were so well versed in this show and knew it like the back of their hands that they were able to pick up whatever I was dropping, that it made the show run so smoothly, even though I wasn't what they were used to and wasn't as good as what we had cast. They were such good actors that they were able to compensate what I was unable to do, and it really still made the show feel complete. And luckily it was a comedy, so anything we're just like, just make it funny. If it fails, just make it funny.
Absolutely. It was meant to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty cool. So Moonshot Theater Productions.
Yes.
Was this something that you started?
No,
Okay.
actually, so this was something started by Kurt Bennett, who we went to college at TCC together. And I was just sitting on my patio one day and got a call from him saying, "Hey, Jen." And I went, "Hi, Kurt. We haven't talked in years." And he said, "I have a proposition for you. Theoretically speaking, how hard would it be to start a professional theater company here?" And I had worked with American Theater Company, all these other different companies within town. I said, very difficult. Oh my gosh, it would be so hard. And to fight for audience amongst all the people that are already here, just so difficult because everybody is amazing here. He goes, cool. Do you want to give it a shot with me? And I was like, I mean, I got nothing else better to do. Let's go for it.
Really?
And so we had our first board meeting, and it was me, him, and Jackie Finn. That was it. That was the board. And he kind of brought us together. He was like, me and Jackie had never been to school together. She graduated the semester before I came into TCC, but we all met through TCC. And we decided that we were going to do the 39 Steps. Which great show.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I had just recently done it 2 years prior for another director. And so when he said he wanted to do the 39 Steps, I said, funny enough, I just stage managed that. And so he was co-director with Jackie, and he also played Richard Hannay. And Jackie was an amazing director, and she also did props for it. And we did auditions, and we did the show, and it was great. And I was like, this was a lot of fun. And then we decided we were going to just keep going with it. And it was funny, I actually found, I used to thrift shop a lot back in the day, and I found this little trophy that had an airplane on it, which in the 39 Steps, there's an airplane scene where Richard Hay is running from like a machine gun off an airplane. And so I got that little airplane trophy, and I got a plaque made that said Moonshot Theater Productions, established 2021.
Nice.
And I gave it to Kurt on opening night. And he still has that. It's just a really nice little thing to remember, like, where we started from. And since then, we did complete works of William Shakespeare. We did an Edgar Allan Poe tribute show over Halloween. And then we did, recently, we did Nothing Bad Ever Happens at the Top of a Pyramid, which was a comedy written by Landry Miller, who is an extremely funny playwright. And we recently did that at the World Stage facility, and it was so fun. And I actually wasn't very much involved in that show, aside from I ran the social media for it, but I came and watched it, and I was just so amazed. I was like, look at this. You know, we started as 3 people just trying to figure it out, and like being able to just come in and watch a show that a theater company that I am involved with put on, like, it was just awesome. And Quinn Blakely, who was our director for that show, just did such an amazing job casting it and working with the actors, and it was just so fun to come in and just kind of be like an outside party and just watch it and just be like, man, this is so cool, you know, that this is the company that I built, you know. And Jackie has been just an amazing person, and she's our artistic director for the company, and Kurt is our president of the board, and he is actually getting ready to do a lot of our Moonshot Academy stuff and work with our children's classes. And there's just so much happening now that it's so crazy to think that we all started with just Kurt giving us a phone call, asking us if we wanted to help him start something. And to now where it is, it's just really cool to be a part of something like that.
Now, according to either Facebook or your website, you guys have kind of taken a little bit of a break, taken a step back.
Yes.
But it also said that you were coming back with some brand new stuff and everything for 2026. Can
Absolutely.
you give us a little insight into that?
Yes. So I can give you a little teaser of some of it.
Okay.
So we actually took this year to kind of restructure. We brought some new people on board. We brought on like Jessica Honan, who is doing our film stuff, and she is incredibly talented. She has worked on a lot of different stuff, and I actually went to ECU with her, and that's where I met her, and she has such a unique creative vision. And we brought her on board. We brought on Amanda Lanesberger as our secretary, and she is also doing a lot of stage management stuff for us. I've kind of like taken her under my wing, and she is so talented in props as well. And so we've just got like a really strong core. And moving forward into 2026, we're going to start the Moonshot Academy, which we're so excited about. We're going to do like stage combat classes for kids, where we're going to teach like the art of safe combat. And so like as we're moving into this new kind of phase of Moonshot, we're looking at how we can improve not just our company, but how we can become a resource for the community around us. So another thing that we're starting with Jess, that she's actually heading up, which is going to be so cool, is we're starting a like film thing that we can lease out to other companies. So like a big issue right now that I have found working with Oklahoma Movement and Pembroke Players is finding reliable people to come and film the shows, which you wouldn't think much about when you're creating the budget for a show, but a lot of people are having issues coming up to record these shows, so we have an archive of the shows that we've been doing. And so we're going to create a film package where you can rent our team to come out and record your shows. And we're looking at partnering with another film company as well that's going to have like drone footage and stuff, so you can have like a professional film production of your show, that we're just going to kind of help with. And we're also looking at doing our biggest event next year that we are so excited for. It's going to be called Battle of the Bards, where we're looking at partnering with 4 other theater companies here in town, which we've already had 2 that are kind of committed. I can't say anything until they're all 4 committed, but we do have meetings with the others, and we're going to be doing, it's like a musical competition where each theater company is going to do a song from a musical of their choice, and then the audience is going to be able to live vote on their favorite song. And then that theater company is going to get a prize money and a giant trophy that they get to keep for the year. And then the next year, we're hoping it's a reoccurring event. The next year, they're going to bring that big trophy back. We're going to hoist it up and then recompete. And then every year, we're just going to pass that trophy along. But each company that wins is going to get about a $2,500. Sorry.
I was going to say, you just kept going, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah, $2,500 prize for their theater company that they can use for future productions.
Wow.
And the big reason we're doing that is, number one, a lot of these theater companies that are around here that are new and establishing, they don't necessarily have the budget to do some of the bigger venues here in town. So we're getting grant money to help cover the venue cost so that these smaller companies can get on that big stage. And when we put a bunch of people together, we can add, you have the audience that would come see all of these different shows come together and see, like, there's a lot of talent in this town that doesn't necessarily get as big a spotlight just because they don't have the resources to be able to spend money for some of these things. And so we're kind of giving a stage for all these smaller companies to come forward and say, like, this is who we are. This is the talent we have to offer. And if they can win, we'll give them some money and say, like, let's see what you can do with it. See how you can grow your company with this. And we're just trying to reinvest back in the community, because our biggest thing is, like, we decided to not be such a company that does like a regular season, and instead take that money, invest it back in the community. We're also going to be doing next year, Jackie is going to be heading this up, which I'm so excited for. We're doing a haunted house here at the airport that's going to have like a hayride and stuff, and like a haunted maze and face painting, and just all these different avenues that we're trying to like create entertainment for the community that's not going to break your bank. And a lot of these venues take a portion of your ticket prices, and so a lot of the companies have to kind of upcharge on their tickets so that they get some of that money after they take it. And so we're trying to use venues like the airport here, where we did Complete Works, where we can kind of take the ticket sales and reinvest it back by buying props for the haunted house, and lots of different avenues where we can give back to the community. Because all of us are in this, all the board members, we're not really paid. We're here because we enjoy theater and we enjoy getting to entertain people. And that's why we do a lot of it. And so the money aspect of it, we're like, if we can reinvest that back to get more people involved, that's what we're going to do with it, rather than like take it for ourselves.
So that's so cool. And this is not the first conversation that I've heard about this. I hear other theaters in this Tulsa area that are doing the same thing. Theater Tulsa leases out their, or offers out their space to other theaters quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I think a larger portion of that is when you look at the TPAC that, offers packages for World Stage and Theater Tulsa and all these others, to give them a big stage to put on their productions. And when you have a community like that, that's when you start seeing the arts become a central part of what you do.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen so much of that, the arts grow in Oklahoma over the last several years.
Absolutely.
Especially like you're talking the film portion of it. Nobody would have thought, 10, 15 years ago that when you're talking big budget, Netflix, FX, Fox, all of that stuff, making making movies and stuff, you wouldn't have thought, oh, they're doing it in Oklahoma.
Yeah, never would have thought that before.
But it's happening, and it's happening now.
100%.
And I think a few years ago, and I don't get into politics a whole lot, but when Mary Fallon kicked off her initiative to bring the arts into Oklahoma and start shooting more movies and things like, we ended up with Killers of the Flower Moon and all of these other big, huge budget movies here in Oklahoma because someone took a chance.
Yeah.
Someone invested in the arts.
Yeah.
And I think that's really kind of the groundworks of what we're doing here with this podcast, is to just, invest back in the people that are making this happen. Theater has for a long, long time been a central part of Oklahoma's history. Woody Guthrie, Will Rogers, the 101 Ranch. I mean, it's been here since statehood, and nobody really thinks about that.
Yeah.
And we've got to, like you said, facilitate that, give back, kind of one of the reasons why I do this podcast. Theater's done so much for me over my lifetime. This is a way for me to give back.
100%.
So I love that idea. I love that. But one thing I wanted to touch on, you mentioned a couple of times, and we didn't mention it at the opening. We're at an airport right now.
Yes. Sorry.
We're sitting in the pilot's lounge of what's
Gundy's Airfield.
Gundy's Airfield in Owasso. It's a little strip here that is actually kind of cool. There's
literally planes landing as we're talking.
As we're talking, I was almost saying, I'm sorry guys, there's a plane landing here. Oh. But there's a dozen or so hangars out here. There's, little prop engine planes. There's some old early era planes out here. I took a couple of photos of. This is a really cool little place that no one would think of, hey, let's put a theater there.
Yeah. And we've been so fortunate. So Jackie Finn, who's on our board, her dad runs a lot of this airport. And so he was kind of our avenue in. And we went to the EAA board, who runs the performance space that we'll use sometimes. And they seemed really enthused by the idea of us putting on a show there. And the Complete Works of William Shakespeare was the first show we put on here. And it went great. We had food trucks out in the grass area. We had other random vendors from the community that sold trinkets, or we had Nothing Bundt Cakes that came and set up a table at our show.
Wow.
And so people could come in, and before the show and during intermission, they could shop and had things to do, or they could go to the food truck and get some food and come back and sit in and watch a show. And we just wanted a community space, something that we could do that would create a focal point for Owasso that's this is where you come for family entertainment. We're really big on doing shows that anybody can come and watch. Battle of the Bards is going to be a great example of that. And we're also going to look at in the future doing maybe one show from a local playwright, because we really strongly believe in promoting local playwrights.
Absolutely.
And bringing up people that, just because you live in Tulsa doesn't mean you write for nothing. You come in, we'll pay you for your script, and you can put on a show here and see a live audience watch what you created. And it's just bringing up that arts community and kind of lifting it up and saying, we'll help be the buffer for you to have a space for people to come and watch your art, is kind of what Moonshot is all about at this point. And that's why we kind of took the break, is to figure out, we went nonprofit, which before we weren't nonprofit. But we're in the final stages of getting our nonprofit license number and everything, and getting the grant money so that as we move forward, we can more focus on how we can give back to the community versus how are we going to make money off of this to fund our next project.
Yeah.
And that's been the biggest struggle so far leading up to being nonprofit, is we're just kind of getting money into it just to take it back out. And it's as we come in, there's a plane.
There's the plane.
As we come into this, we'll have the grant money. For Battle of the Bard, we want it to be an amazing event that people from all over Tulsa and even beyond the community are going to come out to and just be amazed by the talent. Because I've seen lots of local shows that I'm just sitting back there going, I've never seen this actor before. How have I not seen you? You are amazing.
Yep.
This is insane how good this is. Why is there not more people here? And it's just because, nobody knows where this venue is. It's that's not a good enough reason. This is an amazing show, And so being able to kind of lift people up like that is just, we just kind of realized that's where our community's lacking. We have no lack of theater companies putting on amazing shows. Every company out there, if you just throw a dart at a board for the show listing, you're going to see something that's going to blow your socks off. Every theater is putting out amazing work right now. And we thought that's not what we're missing as a community. What we're missing is like a really solid year-round education program. We looked at the classes that other people are offering. We're like, what's something that is not really being offered right now? Like, we're getting ready in the fall of 2026. We're going to be offering like stage management classes, prop making classes, classes on building an acting resume. Like, when you go to these shows, there's kind of unspoken rules when you go to audition for some of these shows that if you're not actively in the community, if you're just an outsider coming in, you have no idea how to mark your music for the pianist to know where to play you in. And so being able to offer classes like these are kind of the unspoken rules of this industry. We're going to teach them to you so you're not behind.
Nice.
And just stuff like that that's like, you know, everybody wants to take acting one and stuff like that. But being able to kind of find the gaps and fill those areas in so that everybody can kind of start from a level playing field is kind of where we're at. Because some people can't, you know, afford to go off to other cities to be able to work on stuff. But we can all afford to start with what we know and being able to offer cheap classes that people can do that.
And now, you know, when we're getting into a point in our society where funding is an issue, schools are closing down art programs, things like that, because they don't have the money to do that. I think it's great to hear of programs and theaters starting more academies and starting more things to give students or anybody, I say students, I'm talking anywhere from 4 to 80.
Yeah.
You know, there's actors and stuff, and there's another plane. Wow, this is an active little place.
Yeah.
But there are people that are getting into theater later in life.
Yeah.
And, you know, they need the same training as everybody else.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I have seen over my time is that there's so many people that they look at theater and they're just like, man, that's so cool, but I can't do that. I can't get on stage. But, you know, there is something in theater for everybody. And that's why I love to see more programs like that are willing to give the stage management training, the light board, the sound board, the programs that go into it, how to make props, things like that, because people can still create.
Absolutely.
We start drawing in more artists into our community. You know, everybody that goes and gets, even if they don't get a degree, but goes to, you know, tech school or whatever, and learns how to do the assisted drafting and all of that kind of others, computer aided drafting, CAD, all that kind of, they can help. They can design sets. You know, people that paint, they can create, you know, sets and designs and things like that. There's so much for everybody.
Yeah.
It's not just about the person that's standing front and center stage singing a song.
Absolutely.
You know, they couldn't be there doing that without that guy up in the booth knowing how to make her mic sound.
Yeah.
That guy putting that spotlight on that person, making sure everything is well lit. You know, the costumer putting her in the right color and the right thing for that character.
And the right fit of the costume.
Absolutely.
And it's one of those things you don't notice until it's wrong. You don't notice that it's off until you see something that's off and you're like, why does this not look right? But when it's right, it's so seamless. You're just like, this is how this looks. But you don't realize how much work went into developing that light plot. This is just how this sounds. But you don't know how long that mic technician took to get the levels of the music versus their volume right.
Absolutely.
But when it's right, you'll never notice it.
Yeah. It's kind of like a stage manager. You know, if everything goes great, the director gets kudos.
Yeah. You'll never notice a stage manager
Something goes wrong, it's your fault.
Yeah, 100%. And that's one of the things when I meet people that are like interested in doing stage management, I'm like, are you ready for everything to be your fault, but nothing to be your right? You know?
Exactly. It's kind of like, you know, in a company, the CEO.
Yeah.
If everything's great, budget's good, numbers are good, the CEO's doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
If something tanks, the VP gets fired.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So tell us about, you're a board member, tell us about Oklahoma Movement.
Yeah, so Oklahoma Movement is a company that I recently got brought onto. I actually met the head of the company, Jen Alden, through I was doing Pride and Prejudice with Pembroke Players. I was stage managing their show, and she was the choreographer. And as soon as that show wrapped, she asked me if I would be interested in stage managing Tethered, their show that they did this last spring, which was a Dante's Inferno style dance show. And that was the only words she needed to convince me to do the show. Big Dante's Inferno fan. And I was like, excuse me? Absolutely. I don't even know what that is, but I would love to be involved. And we did that show, and I got invited to join the board, and it's just been a great opportunity for me to kind of expand my network. I've never been very heavily involved in the dance scene, but all these women on this board are just incredibly talented and very smart, and getting to learn how they operate their business has kind of been really interesting for me. They recently did a Halloween show called Haunted, which was so neat. They did it at like the Guthrie Green, and they did a fall festival. And this next spring, they're doing their show Super Sweet 2, which is going to be like an 80s superhero dance show, which is so cool.
Nice.
But the board has just been really interesting to come on, and getting to see how kind of a different type of company, but within the same entertainment sphere operates. Just like the small discrepancies in like how we operate versus how they do has been really interesting. Like, the prep time leading up to a show, making sure all the dancers are well stretched and being able to account for their physical needs versus like actors, we just kind of assume you're good. We're more worried about your mental, it's just been really interesting little difference for me. And I've actually got to reconnect with some people I went to school with. One of the other board members, Kate, she actually went to high school. We went to high school together. And so getting to see her again, she was Sloth in the Tethered production. And then I went to TCC with Bailey, and she was Jealousy and Envy in the Tethered production. So getting to work with these people that's like, oh, I've met you before, I know you, but like seeing them in a different light and getting to see just the amazing choreography and stuff just blows my mind. I didn't know with Tethered they had silk dancers that were up on these silks and doing this aerial work that was just stunning. And then me as a stage manager, I'm like, please don't fall. Oh my gosh, safety, please, But it's like they're so in control of themselves. They do not need me to worry about them.
Right.
But it's just really artistic. And it feels like what we do in theater is artistic. But to see that, it's just pure grace. It's just really, I loved watching that show. And I got a huge honor of getting to work with Matt. He was our lighting designer for that show, and he also does lights for the TU Performing Arts Center. He was incredibly talented. I would just sit back. There's so many times during that show that I just sat back and went, oh, Matt, that's so pretty. Look at that. That's so pretty. And he's like, thanks. Like, he was just such a cool guy to work with. And everybody on that production team was just a dream to work with. And I actually got to bring Jackie. She was my assistant stage manager for that show because we realized we needed somebody backstage. I said, well, I actually know somebody that might be able to just hop on. And she was just exactly what we needed. She was so poised and was able to make sure everybody was where they were supposed to be, and an excellent lifeline for me to have backstage, because we did that at the Tulsa Performing Arts Center. And the booth is very removed from the backstage area. So I needed somebody that I could be like, are they where they're supposed to be, or should I be worried? And she's like, nope, I got them. You're all good. And having somebody back there that you can trust, it's a big thing, which is funny because that's how I started doing community theater. With American Theater Company, I think the first show I ever did was K Mutiny Court Martial. I worked at the Tulsa Performing Arts Center in the same theater, but it was this was before they rebuilt it. And I was the backstage person, just being on headset, being like, yep, they're in their places. I've refilled the fake champagne. We're good to go. And being able to have that, where it's like I started back there and now I'm up here in the booth calling the show. It was a really cool feeling of like, this is growth, And it really, not to get a little emotional, but it made me a little sad because the director for Community Court Martial was Jim Runyon, who I worked with several times, who is since no longer with us. And just being in that space kind of really reminded me of working with Jim. And he was such an amazing guy. And so patient with me learning all of this artwork and just constantly being supportive of me, being like, no, Jen, you're doing fine. You're doing great. Just keep going. Just keep your head down. Keep moving. And when I graduated TCC, because he was also a professor there at TCC and was also working with American Theater Company, I wrote a card to him about how much it meant to me that he brought me on to K-Mutiny and kind of started me on that community theater route. Because after that show, they asked me to do In the Next Room with them, and I just kind of was like the go-to assistant stage manager for them. And I said, you really got me started on that. I can't thank you enough, being able to take that risk on me. And it just kills me that I can't like show him now like where I am. But it's just, you know, when you look back at all the people that kind of help get you there, it's really powerful to be like, I wouldn't have made all these decisions I made without these people like pointing the way for me every step, and being able to kind of look back every now and then and go, man, I feel like I did them proud, you know, is a really kind of powerful moment. And I think that's what a lot of theater is we all just want to make our previous mentors really proud of us and just really want to say like, I did it. Look at me, you know? And that show in particular, Tethered, was kind of a big moment for me on that, of being able to be like, I did it. Like, aren't you proud? You know?
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
I think that's theater in general.
Yeah.
I mean, we're storytellers, and part of that is passing on what we have learned.
Yeah.
You know, and at some point, you know, you're going to have that opportunity to pass that on the same way it was passed into you. And I'm going to have that opportunity at some point too.
Yeah.
So we take a little bit of each one of those people with us.
100%.
You know, and speaking of going on into that, talking about stage management becoming a very vital part of your life, what is your process for prepping for a show?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
From first read through to opening night.
Yeah. So the very first thing that I ask every director I work with, because I work with a few different companies all across the board, worked with a lot of different directors, and everybody has their own method of doing things. My first question I always ask is, how can I help? What is something you need me to take off your plate? And that kind of sets the tone for how I do the whole show. So like I work with some directors that are like, I move very fast with my blocking and I need you to not have me repeat it. And I'm like, heard. And so when we do blocking, I am writing as fast as I can. And so they'll be like, weeks later, they'll say, hey, did I have them exiting stage left or stage right on that? I'll be like, you had them exiting stage left because on the next scene they come on from stage left. So we can't have them exit stage right. Otherwise it doesn't make sense. He's like, perfect. Thank you. And that's what they need from me. Because they have a very clear creative vision of what they want the show to look like. They just need me for the technical stuff. And other directors I work with are like, I've kind of got a loose idea of what I want. Just kind of be there for lines. And if you have any ideas or if anything's not really matching up, just holler. And that kind of changes how I approach that. And so that's the first question I always ask. And then I get a copy of the script and I break it down, right? So I'm looking at who I have in each scene, and I'll make a list of who's in every scene, where they're entering from, where they're exiting from. And then if it's like a scene that's got a lot of dynamic movement that's really integral to the scene, then I'll make note of that. But a lot of the times, the movement within the scene is kind of explained. Like, oh, he goes over to the piano and talks to her. Obviously, they're going to walk to the piano. And then my biggest thing that I take care of next is props, like what props are in each scene, and then I'll get a little separate props list going. Mine's a lot of lists. I have a lot of Excel spreadsheets for each show that I do. I keep like what it is, where it enters, where it exits, where it goes in the scene, and then kind of who they are, where they are, and then I'll work backwards. Like if I need them for this scene, then I need them to be in places by this point. And a lot of this stuff, I've been very fortunate to work with some really good assistant stage managers that I can say, I'm going to give you props. I'm going to let you take care of what props come on and make sure they're where they're supposed to be. Or I'm going to have you take care of set movements. And then I just kind of come in if there's problems. Like, a instance that directly comes to mind is when we were doing Pride and Prejudice. We did it in such a cool setting. We did it in an art gallery that was where the show was put on. And then they had a whole wall of glass mirrors, and everything, the whole set was on wheels. There was no like flats or anything to show set. It was all just desk, piano, chairs, all on wheels that just moved on and off, couches. And there was one particular scene where all the couches had to kind of be moved in a different direction. The piano had to be moved, all the chairs had to move, and it was so fast. And we had a whole rehearsal where we were just sitting there going, how do we do this? How do we make this look? Because there was dancing all going through the stage at the same time. So it's like, how do we not hit a dancer?
Right.
And how do we get everything where it's supposed to be? And I was working with Amanda at the time, and we were just trying to figure out like timing wise how we get everything to move. And we'd be like, okay, let's take the piano first and then the chairs, and then, oh, that doesn't work. Let's take the chairs first and the piano. Oh, that doesn't work. We got to move the couch first. That's got to be the first thing to go. But it took all of 10, 15 minutes. And Amanda was so good about, that's it. That's good. That's what we're doing. Okay, perfect. It'll be that way every time. She had such detailed notes that once we had it set, we didn't have to worry about it again.
Nice.
And so that's, having somebody that can take really detailed notes, really integral to having like a backup. And like I think one thing that I do really well as a stage manager is I'm quick. I'm real quick at writing things down. I can write down 2 words and know 2 paragraphs off those 2 words, but it's just something to jog my memory enough to know what we were talking about.
Right.
And some people are the opposite. They need really detailed notes. I work really well with people that need detailed notes because I'll take the time to let you write it down and explain it. But having exactly how it needs to be at exactly the time helps me remember exactly how I need to do it. So
Sure.
It's like those opposites work really well with each other that I've found, versus like if both of us kind of do paraphrasing, we're like, but was it exactly at this time, or was it what was exactly the way we did it?
Yeah.
So having like those 2 different types of personalities working together kind of works really well for me in shows. If I have somebody that can really take detailed notes and maybe needs a little extra time to write all that down, I'm totally fine with that because it helps me stay better on track.
Cool. I like that. So what's your favorite kind of production to manage? Straight plays, musicals, dance, experimental?
Ooh, man, I like musicals because of the challenge. There's so many different things that go into a musical than our typical straight play. But if I'm looking at like some of my favorite shows, they've got to be straight plays. I really like the nuance of being able to create something of nothing, Because musicals, it's easy to make them interesting. They've got dance numbers and vocals, and you got a great singer, and all of a sudden the show's a hit. But the book may not necessarily be that great. Where with a play, creating that tension, I really like doing dramas specifically. Comedies are really fun, but I am not, anybody you talk to about me will say, I'm not the funniest person. But I could play drama really well. And being able to direct that, I really like creating tension in a scene and being able to just kind of like watch how the director does that and then try to amplify that with the tech as the stage manager. Oh, that's really fun. I really like being able to do like straight plays and adding elements that kind of move that scene more, because the actors usually do such a great job that you're just kind of amplifying that with the tech. And it's really fun to kind of play with that when you're just working with bare bones.
Yeah.
It's more of a challenge, I think, that way, as far as like creating something from very little.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. When you've got something, you've got a very minimal set.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about with your hanger over here.
Yeah.
Got a concrete floor.
Yeah. We had a wall, a literal wall that they would just run around. That was like different scenes.
And so working the lighting and the sound and things like that, different colors and on stuff like that, that's really what brings out.
Yeah. The real acting. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So looking forward. Okay. We talked a little bit about the Academy and things like that you've got going on coming up in 2026, but let's look further.
Yeah.
Are there any dream projects or collaborations that you see on the horizon?
Ooh, 100%. So one of the big things that we're trying to work our way towards as far as Moonshot is concerned is a building that is not just a building for us, but we want... I've been very specific about what I want in terms of this building. I want it to have lots of small practice rooms near a college, like ORU or TU, where music theater students or whatever can rent rooms that have a piano, a mini fridge with some water, and you can just rent a room and come in and work songs that different theater companies can rent and come in. And maybe if they need somebody to work on something individually, they can use the small practice room. But then we have like a dance studio that's got a wall of mirrors and a dance floor, and then a theater space. It's got just a stage and just like bare bones of like a lot of different people can use this space. We're wanting it to be a community space that you can come. We're going to have a bulletin board that has all different shows. If people are needing somebody, like, hey, we're doing a show, but we need a lighting designer, put an ad up on our board. You know, if, oh, you need a sound designer, put an ad up on our board. We'll show you, we'll spread that around. We're wanting to create like a hub. And another thing we're wanting to do, hopefully soon, is create a improv team that companies can bring us in. And I've actually started working on the breakdown of how this would work, where like regular corporate companies can bring us in and we'll do team building exercises with your crew. We'll work improv exercises that will teach your team creativity, teamwork, and how to work well off the cuff, and just kind of create like a team atmosphere within like a corporate that people may have never done this before. But all of a sudden they're being asked, you know, well, if you were a bird, what bird would you be? And it's like they're just having to come up with stuff and just create this like fun environment that you can use. You know, we'll come in over the course of 8 weeks and do 1 hour sessions with your teams and kind of work to get them to a more collaborative idea and headspace that's kind of bringing theater to people that wouldn't typically be involved in theater. And then once they're involved, it's like, oh, we also have this community space where all these shows for all these companies that have worked with us, they're showcasing their shows. And so they can come and be like, oh, I did improv with this people, but they said there's a show going on this weekend. Maybe we could go watch that. That could be fun to do. We had a blast doing the improv thing. Maybe the show will be good. And just kind of bridging that gap, because one thing that I keep going back to that a lot of us Moonshot board members come back to is when Shakespeare wrote, he didn't write for the elite. He wrote for everybody. People would come and pay a penny to stand on the floor and be right up next to the stage and watch his shows. That's what we're trying to bring back. Theater's for everybody. It's not for people that have an in-depth understanding of it. It's for people that want entertainment. And if you want entertainment at a cheap price, we're trying to give that to you. We're trying to give you a way to expand yourself creatively that can lead to other things. Like can lead to you being a set designer. I know people that were actors here. They went off to Chicago and then decided to build sets. You know, just building this roundhouse of different talents and skills that maybe some days you're called to be an actor. Maybe some days you're called to run the soundboard. But you have the ability to do both.
Right.
And that's the thing is like we need to create more well-rounded artists. And that's what one of the colleges I went to, TCC, they were very big on everybody does everything here.
Yes.
You have to put in hours at the shop and help build sets, even if you're the lead in the show. And it creates this ability to rely on your own resources, which is one of the reasons I think the three of us, me, Jackie, and Kurt, have done so well with Moonshot, because all three of us have a plethora of different skills that kind of creates this company as it is. And being able to rely on our own skills and know that it came from the help of others is what leads us to be so community driven now. It's like we wouldn't be here if other people didn't invest in us. So we want to turn around and be that for other people.
Nice.
And be able to invest.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's what I love. I love it. Okay, so what advice would you give to young artists who are considering going into theater production?
Watch as much as you can. And here's the thing. You don't have to buy a ticket. I know that sounds terrible as somebody who's advocating for community theater because we all rely on ticket sales. But I started ushering.
Yes.
I would go to the Tulsa Performing Arts Center. They have an ushering class that you could take. You just go on their website and see when the next one is. It's a free class. It's like an hour long. You go and then you just send out an email to like Theater Tulsa, American Theater Company, Pembroke Players, World Stage, all of these places that you say, hey, I recently got certified as an usher. Let me know if you have an opening.
Absolutely.
Almost every single one of them needs ushers.
Yep.
So you just go and reach out. You get to see the show for free and you get to work with it. And a lot of the times you'll get to like talk to some of the actors and stuff, ask them questions, come for it. And here's the thing, you got to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Being able to watch all these different shows. One of the key ways that I got to talk to some of the more executive staff of Theater Tulsa was I was hanging out with some friends and somebody from Theater Tulsa happened to be there. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know he was the executive director of Theater Tulsa, but I was talking about The Hunchback of Notre Dame and how much I love the off-Broadway show and what I would do if I did it and all this. And he was like, that's really interesting. And we had a whole conversation about it. He's like, it's really nice to talk shop with you. And I was like, thanks. Then he walked off and my friend came out. He's like, did you know who you were talking to? I was like, no. He's like, that's the executive director of Theater Tulsa. I said, I had no clue. But that's how it happens. You just have to be curious and be knowledgeable, be willing to say, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn if you'll be willing to teach me. Almost every single person that works in this industry loves to be a teacher. We would love to show you how we do what we do because everybody does it a little differently.
Yeah.
So be willing to learn and be curious enough to ask the question of, hey, do you mind if I shadow you for a minute? You're going to have a hard time finding somebody that will say, no, that's actually kind of a real big inconvenience for me.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, there are people out there.
There are.
You know, I just really don't, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, there's so many people that, you know, they have no problem sharing what they know.
Yeah.
And I think that's great.
Almost everybody I know would be like, yeah, be here at 6.
Yeah.
We'll pull up a chair for you.
Okay. As we start wrapping things up here,
Mm-hmm.
I end every one of our episodes with some kind of off-the-wall curveball questions. We call it our curtain call. And so we're just going to have some fun. So just first thing that comes to your mind with these questions. So if you could stage manage any historical event as if it were a play, what would it be and why?
Oh, what a great question. Any historical event. My brain immediately goes to Assassins, but that's already a musical.
Yeah, that's
I would probably say the Revolutionary War. Like, I know there's already Hamilton and 1776, but just more from just like an everyday person living through the Revolutionary War.
Okay.
That's what I would like to see. Like, just as a random person being like, wait, they did what this week? You know, I think that would be interesting to see, like, how everybody else reacted, not the key players.
Yeah.
But the populace just trying to survive just a turbulent time, I think would be kind of interesting.
Interesting. Okay. So what's the weirdest or most unexpected thing that's happened backstage during the show?
I dislocated my knee. I was in the tech booth and my foot just slipped and it was really, I don't know what happened exactly, but my knee just dislocated. And all of a sudden I was like, trying not to make too loud of a noise because the tech booth was directly above the audience and open. And I just got on the mic and I was like, can I have my ASM? Please bring me an ice pack. And they were like, are you okay? And I was like, I think my knee just slipped out of place, but if you could bring me an ice pack, that would be awesome. And then in that same show, as I was trying to resituate with the ice pack, my book fell and the binding popped open. And pages fell down because it was just a graded floor. The pages fell down to the first floor. And my my light board operator looked at me and he was like, was that the pages that we need? And I went, it absolutely was, but it's okay. I know the show. And I told my ASM on headset, I was like, can you go down and get those pages that just fell? And she was like, pages fell? And I was like, yes. And so she went down and get it. And the whole time I was like, okay, I think a cue's coming up and go. And go. And we were close enough, at least, that nobody really noticed. And then by the time I got my pages back, we were able to get back on track. But that was when I was doing Big Fish. And some of those songs, there's like so many cues back to back. And I was like, they're all color coordinated to what he's saying. Because like daffodils are yellow, you know. And so I was just like, I think this is it. Get ready. And then some of the times I was like, get ready. And then I was like, no, wait, not yet. Wait. No, wait. There it is. Go. Like, but we were able to manage through, and James, who was my board operator at the time, was just luckily fantastic. He was just sitting there with his finger over the button the entire time, like, is it now? So
since you just made my heart sink just by telling me that story, I'm going to give you one. If theater didn't exist, what would you be doing instead?
I honestly, something with speaking, probably. some sort of like public speaking.
See that?
Yeah. Some sort of public speaking, or actually I'm getting my bachelor's degree. I graduate this December in organizational leadership in business. So some sort of management or, structured leadership type of role probably. But yeah, that would probably be what I'd have to go. So probably some sort of public speaking. I talk a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, you can still do that. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to have something to pay the bills, right?
Absolutely.
So, okay, what's your go-to karaoke song and why?
Ooh. Can I give you two?
Sure.
So my first one is Mama's Broken Heart, which is a Miranda Lambert song, just because my voice fits really well with like country music. So that's a fun one to like kind of throw twang in there. And then When You're Good to Mama from Chicago.
Okay.
That's a role I really want to play one day.
Okay.
But yeah, I sing that one pretty good. That's a good one.
Good. All right. You're stranded on a desert island
Mm-hmm.
with one Shakespeare play, one musical, and one snack. What are your picks?
Macbeth for the Shakespeare show. My favorite Shakespeare show, 100%. The musical? That's a tough one. The snack would be Cheez-Its. Let me answer that one because I know that one. Cheez-Its. Love Cheez-Its. And the musical. I'd have to say, probably Hamilton. I know that's like kind of a basic answer, but I really like the dynamics of all the characters in that. I could entertain myself for a really long time playing different characters in that in my head.
Okay.
So that would probably be the one that could entertain me the longest.
There you go. All right. So, any parting words of wisdom before we say goodbye?
I think if I had any words of wisdom, it would just be stay curious. That has gotten me so much further than any other skills or assets that I have in this industry. Is just being curious and open to new experiences. So if anybody's wanting to get into this industry, that would be what I'd say. Be curious, be open, and just go for it. Most people are more willing than you think to help you out.
Nice. Jennifer, thank you very much for being a part of this. For Moonshot Productions, if there's anything that Oklahoma On Stage can do to help you, let us help promote, let us help get the word out, whatever you need. That's what we're here for. So thank you for being a part of this. We really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
For everybody else listening at home, thank you for taking the time to be a part of this as well. Thank you for letting us be just a part of your life. And remember, no matter what you do, continue to support the arts.
Oklahoma On Stage, the spotlight.